Hello class, today we're going to talk about section 3.4, which involves dividing rational numbers. One piece of vocab that we are going to need for this section is the reciprocal. The reciprocal means a fraction that has been flipped over. So that's taking the numerator and putting it in the denominator, and taking the denominator and putting it into the numerator. So to go over this idea, we're going to do a couple examples. First, looking at the fraction 2/3, when we are finding the reciprocal of that, we are flipping it upside down, so 2/3 changes into 3/2. This next one in the middle, we're looking at -1/5. The negative doesn't have any effect when we are taking the reciprocal. Again, we are flipping the fraction over, so we are changing it to 5/1, that negative is still in the front. We want to make sure that we are simplifying, so -5/1 just gives us an answer of -5. The last one that we have to deal with is when we have mixed numbers. The first thing we have to do is turn our mixed number into an improper fraction. If you remember, we do that by taking the denominator times the whole number, so 7 times 9 gives us 63. And adding on the numerator, which gives us 67/9. And then we want to go ahead and find the reciprocal by flipping over those two values to give me a reciprocal of 9/67. So we're going to use this idea of reciprocal to help us with the dividing of rational numbers. Quick fun video for you to help explain this concept.
Yeah, you know how this go. Keep, change, flip. Simple, right? Divided fractions. Vocabulary. Let's go. Keep, change, flip. Yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip. Yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip. Yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip. Yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Dividing fractions is easy. That's no lie. You just flip one, yep, then you multiply. Don't flip both, because that'll be strange. You need to keep one exactly the same. Yeah. Then the sign gets changed, division to multiplication, that's okay. Then flip the second fraction like you're on a grill. We multiply what's left, that's really real. Take 3/5 divided by 2/3. Keep, change, flip, that's the word. Keep 3/5 the same, change the sign so we multiply, that's the game. Flip 2/3, we get 3/2, then we can multiply, and so should you. 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 5 is 10, 9/10 can't reduce it, that's the end. Why do we flip it? I'll explain the math. Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by half. 20 students in your class divided by 2 would be 10 students. All we can do, 20 students in your class times half is 10. You'll see, you'll get the same thing at the end. Dividing is multiplying by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip, yeah, that's the simple rule. Keep, change, flip, yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip, yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip, yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip, yeah, that's the action. Everybody's gonna know how we're dividing fractions.
Alright, so as the song stated, there are 3 steps that we are looking when we are dividing fractions or rational numbers. Our first step is keep, and we are keeping the first fraction the same. The second step was change. That is changing the sign from division to multiplication. And that last step was flip. And we are flipping the second fraction over to its reciprocal value. So we are using that idea of reciprocal for step 3, which is the flip. Keep, change, flip. I'm expecting a lovely rendition of that song from all of you when I get back to class. All right, so finding the quotient or doing the division. First, we have 1/8 divided by 4. In order to make this two fractions, we're going to put the 4 over 1. 4 divided by 1 is the same thing as 4. So we are going to keep our first fraction the same, change the sign to multiplication, and flip our second fraction. So flip the 4 and the 1. So I now have 1/8 times 1/4, which gives me a final answer of 1/32. So this one is looking kind of similar to the first one, but we are going to go ahead and do the same thing to start. Put that 1 on the bottom in order to keep it, or to turn 4 into a fraction. Same 3 steps apply. Keep the first, change the sign, and flip that second fraction over. So we flip that over to 8 over 1. 4 times 8 is 32 over 1. And we can reduce this to a final answer of just 32. This next one, again, same concept. Keep the first, change it to multiplication, and flip the second one. Now we have 1 times 6, which gives me 6. 8 times 1, which gives me 8. I can reduce this by dividing both of them by 2, and I end up with a final answer of 3/4. Go ahead and pause your video. Try this one on your own. Again, 3 steps that we have to work with. We have keep, change, and then flip. One thing that you could have done with this problem is cross-reduce. So 4 can be divided by 4, and 12 can be divided by 4. You can reduce that to 1 and 3. So now up top we have 3 times 3, which is 9. On the bottom we have 1 times 7, which is 7. In order to simplify this answer, we need to figure out 7 goes into 9 one time. When I do 7 times 1, I get 7. In order to get to 9, there are 2 left over. So I'm turning that into a mixed number of 1 and 2/7. Last thing we have to deal with is when we have mixed numbers to start. Your first step is going to be to turn those mixed numbers into improper fractions. So 2 times 7 plus 5 is 14 plus 5, which is 19 out of 7. Then with our second one, we are 2 times 3, which gives us 6, plus 2, which is 8/3. You want to wait on keep, change, flip until you have turned those mixed numbers into improper fractions. Now we can go through and do our first step, keeping the first one, changing the sign, and flipping the second fraction. When I go through and multiply those, I'm going to get 87 over 56. We end up with an improper fraction, which means we'd need to turn it back into a mixed number. So 56 goes into 87 once. When I figure out what's left over, I end up with 31 out of 56, giving me a final answer of 1 and 31/56. And this last one, so we have -1 and 5/6 times 5, divided by 5 and 11/12. Again, the first step you're going to want to do is to turn those mixed numbers into fractions. The biggest thing you want to be careful of is this negative right here. When you're going from a mixed number into an improper fraction, ignore the negative for a minute. So we have 6 times 1, which is 6, plus 5, which is 11, and you're going to put that negative sign back in after you've done the multiplying and adding. So 6 times 1 plus 5, and then put the negative on that answer, which was 11. So I have negative 11/6 divided by 5 times 12 is 60, plus 11 is 71 over 12. We're going to go through and keep, change, flip. What I can do now is, again, go with that idea of cross-reducing. So I can reduce the 6 to a 1 and the 12 to a 2. Multiplying negative 11 times 2, I end up with negative 22. And 1 times 71 gives me 71, for a final answer of negative 22 over 71. If you have questions about this, try to talk it out with each other. If you're really unable to figure something out on your homework, put a question mark next to it, and I can answer your questions when I get back to class tomorrow. But you should be working together if you have questions and trying to figure those out. Your homework assignment is either from the book, page 144, problems 14 through 32 evens, or if you would prefer to do IXL, go into level J and work on skills E5 and E6, and you need a SMART score of 70 or 1 ribbon on both of those levels.